Meeting for October 27th, 2018. If we could have the roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Councilmember Pennington?
Here. All present. We have one discussion item this morning. C1 is the city manager candidate interviews. We have 6 scheduled today, throughout the day. And before we start, just a few house cleaning items. The process will be that each member will have one question to begin. Then once we make the rounds with one question, then we will each ask an additional second question. And then I will follow up with the final question. And we've allotted 1 hour per candidate, and this morning we have the pleasure of having a Skype interview as our first interview, and I would like to welcome Rex Saukkonen. Good morning, Rex. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear, Mayor. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Thank you. Did you hear the protocol this morning? Each of us will ask you one question as we go around the table, then we will have a second question, and then we'll give you an opportunity maybe at the end to ask a question.
Hey, no worries. I'm looking forward to this. I'm fired up.
Okay. Well, let me begin. Rex, please tell us about yourself, and then explain your reasons for wanting to be the next Troy City Manager.
Certainly. Let me start with good morning, Mayor Slater. Good morning, Councilmember Abraham. Good morning, Councilmember Baker, Councilmember Hamilton, Councilmember Henderson, Councilmember Hoderick, and Councilmember Pennington. This is a fantastic opportunity, and I couldn't be happier to be here today. I was born in Albert Lee, Minnesota, and my dad was in the timber industry, and my mother was a teacher and a principal. I'm a regular guy and a family man, and for 25 years, I've been a servant leader, an advisor, and a consummate team player. I'm trusted implicitly and live by the core values of integrity, service, and excellence, and expect all that work with me to do the same. Core values flatten communications, and they set accountability and discipline. I've held a top secret SCI clearance for almost 3 decades, and this is the U.S. government's highest trust in me, and you can't do this without perfect integrity. I'm exceptionally unique in that my 25 years of military experience is in worldwide affairs. I'm comfortable with crisis, I'm culturally savvy, and I understand the criticality of team building, and especially collaboration and communication as it relates to outreach and public affairs. I'm endorsed by awards and medals from both the U.S. and foreign governments, but most importantly, I absolutely love doing this. I build teams that love their work so the public has faith in its government because our actions are integrity driven. I'm ready to build and lead innovative teams, to foster relationships and to infuse core values, and I am genuinely excited to be part of the city's future successes and to hit the ground running as the next city manager. In order to understand of what piqued my interest in municipal governments, it comes down to the fact that I want to continue to serve with my operations side. My decades of experience as chief of operations in various leadership positions within the Army and the Air Force truly defined what I wanted to do professionally and gave me a unique perspective on community development and how to build healthy communities that you can live, work, and recreate. This experience was extremely important as working with the grassroots level and the satisfaction that comes with seeing local projects directly benefit the residents that we serve. I'm intrigued by the multifaceted aspects and the assortment of issues that need to be addressed each and every day in a municipality. It's this varied, unpredictable nature of each day and the satisfaction that comes from affecting positive changes at the local level that I believe keeps the job fresh and largely fulfilling. And from a professional standpoint, I'm truly impressed with the quality of the infrastructure along with the vision, details, and implementation of the community master plan. This long-range plan has created a vibrant and unique and diverse community. And with current and past councils, along with the staff that should be commended for their efforts in the development of the city of Troy and one of the premier business-centric cities. I also believe that the city manager position will afford me the operational challenge that I seek and the ability to be challenged and to continue with my lifelong learning process. But personally, the city green space was a huge attraction for me. Being an avid cyclist and a hiker, Troy is the perfect environment for me to pursue my many passions. And it's truly satisfying to work in a community that shares the same values and prioritizes the importance for the green spaces and parks. When I was coming out of the military, I realized that when I retired, that I wanted to come to Michigan to be with my sister and my family in this area. We really wanted to put down roots here. And in our opinion, there's no better place than Troy, especially with A+ rated schools and the safest place in the entirety of Michigan. But my passion is building people's quality of life, and this job also gives me the opportunity to show my son what it means to serve our community firsthand.
Thank you. Next, Mayor Pro Tem Abraham has a question.
Good afternoon, sir. What do you consider essential in the relationships between a city manager and the city council? How would you facilitate a productive relationship?
First and foremost, I think that we absolutely have to be honest, open-minded, and unbiased. And I'll always be accessible to listen to issues and concerns and set the expectations at the outset. I want to understand what roles you want from me, and I will ask from you how I provide advice and liaison, and especially things like how to interact with the media and what talking point you want me to have so that we're combined on the right levels and the right messaging this goes through. I'll work hard to over-communicate with you at all times so everybody's on the same page at all times.
Thank you. Next, Councilman Baker will ask a question.
Thank you. What would an internet search reveal about your past public positions? Is there any information or background that you would like to provide?
I think the best part about doing any sort of internet research on me is you probably find all the things that I didn't put on my resume. So things that you would find about me are going to be about the work that I've done with libraries, the work I've done with the communities, the fact that I'm an Eagle Scout, the fact that I've worked and done newsworthy search and rescues in Montana, my combat experiences, maybe a little bit more about my medals, and certainly the hard work that I've done within Europe to help support more than 32 different nations. But as we talk about the other works that I've done, something that's probably missing is the fact that I've worked and put together a 4,300 person military city at RAF Mildenhall, which included everything from personnel to fire departments to the police to working and putting together an entire airfield. So there's nothing that's going to be out there in Google that's going to be bad. If anything, it'll just open up the fact that I'm normally a quiet professional and don't like to brag about myself.
Great. Thank you. Next, Councilman Hamilton will have a question.
Good to meet you, Rex. What actions would you take to assure that the city is intentionally engaged in evaluating and improving its diversity and inclusion efforts to assure all residents have an opportunity to participate in our local government?
A best practice that comes with diversity can come through an equity office and understanding the trends as the city changes. I know that the city of Troy doesn't have an equity office, but the University of Michigan has a best practice office that could come in and help with HR and the departments. I think that equity represents the generational and cultural representation of the city, and the workforce should reflect this diversity. Differences help to make us stronger and properly represent our community. This also starts with our job descriptions and the way that we're writing them, and that we give an opportunity regardless of education. in many cases, character, drive, and passion are much more important than education. And we already need to take a look at who's a part of our city. What sort of let's put it, the continuity would we be able to gain from the departments that we already have? I think when we fill positions, that the thing that we really need to be able to do is to consult the teams and to understand the talent we have and to build a bench of succession and continuity. And when we're interviewing to use the departments and their personnel so that they can come in and make sure the people are the right fit for the team. And we provide them structured professional development and indoctrination so they understand why they are here and how they reflect in their work they do helps to support not only the master plan, but the strategy and also the budgeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Councilman Henderson will have a question.
Good afternoon, Rex, and first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Hey, you're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
In a mature community like Troy with a difficult open space primarily left to develop, what experience do you have in assessing development opportunities and challenges in a city, and what is your plan if selected as the next Troy City Manager?
During my time that I was working up at REF Hall as the Chief of Operations, one of the more difficult aspects that we had was working with the local community and realizing we had to expand the base. And the important aspect that were things that we learned during that time period is we were going to have to move houses that had been there for multiple years. We were also having to go through and create more areas where we were going to expand the airfield. So sitting down with the community and understanding what's acceptable and unacceptable, but also understanding and explaining to them what the benefit is going to be of using an open space helped us to gain not only the respect of the community, but also the legal allowance from the UK government to expand our airbase into areas that were contentious. To give you an example of this, we had 3 houses that were in the middle of our base, and as we were trying to expand the base, the people were very resistant at going. And we realized we had to be able to do this because of security problems, to be able to help with base access. And it was a 2-year plan that we had to work with these people to end up to get them moved into another area, and so we could actually put our base together. They were actually dividing our flight line and the areas that we were living together. So certainly working with the community and being able to get their agreement and the legal representation that we have from this is going to be the way that we need to move forward in any of these situations.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, Councilwoman Hoderick will have a question.
Hi, it's good to be talking to you.
Good to talk, ma'am.
You touched on this a bit in one of your earlier answers, but my question is pertaining to communication. What do you see as the city manager's role in communicating with the press and the public? How do you plan to be successful?
Well, I think the first part for all of this is understanding what you want me to talk about. I have to have the messages and understand the left and right limits of where you want me to be able to engage. I absolutely have to have your consent for the things that you want me to be able to talk about, so I'm on right message with your policy. The other aspect of it is coming through and introducing myself to the media that's going to be reporting and establishing that relationship. That's always been something that I've done when I've been overseas, is to find the media outlet, to go find the reporters, who are the people that are broadcasting our messages, because this is also going to go into transparency. We want to use them as always making sure that the mic is on and knowing that we are going forward to work in the right way with the right messages. But communication comes in so many different forms that it could be anything from social media to paper, to electronic emails, to boards, even to having people chat back and forth. So as I come back to the original piece, is having the right talking points is certainly the best way of moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Councilman Pennington will have a question.
Rex, thanks for
meeting with us today. And again, thank you for your service in the military. Please describe in detail your approach to municipal budgeting, including the process you would use to develop budget objectives with City Council and facilitate budget development with department heads.
Certainly. I believe that the budget is our most important policy document. And the key is the city having a vision that's a strategic plan, goals, priorities, and needs that are in concert with community vision. We help to build a vision with what the community may be, and then we're going to put the numbers against it. This is a long-term approach which requires the discipline from both the elected officials and then also the senior management. The budget has to be based in the master plan and also include our capital improvement goals. We look at the future, at least a 3-year budget, and we're going to take a look at the long-range means of the sustaining not only the organization, but then also the community. And we're going to communicate through quarterly budget updates where we are today, what are our projections, and is this accurate? And we're going to tweak this as required and be able to take this during reviews to see if we need to change the route that we're on to get back to the vision. We also want to strive to develop substantial reserves. This gives us the financial flexibility to deal with pop-ups or any financial downturn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to me, Rex. I'll ask the next question. I assume you have taken a look at the city's organizational structure. How do you feel about the current structure? Do you feel there is a need to implement change? If so, express your ideas and tell us your philosophy on the city's organizational structure.
Well, to be honest with you, from the research that I've done and through the budget and understanding through your master plan, I think the city's actually running very well. And congrats to you and the city council for your efforts and the dedications to shape the city the way it is. I'm still very much evaluating the city and its procedures, and I haven't found anything that I would yet need to implement as a far-reaching change within the city. I'm sure that over time there'll be programs that I want to implement, but the immediate change that I see is healing the city staff and nurturing trust within the community.
Very good. We're back to Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Your last comment dovetails very nicely with my question. It's, if selected as the next city manager, how would you build trust and respect of the employees and the community?
Certainly. I think that this is one of the more important aspects of it. And I acutely understand how trust and strong team collaboration and proactive leadership are essential to form a high level of service and performance. Trust is a delicate commodity, and it has to be nurtured and practiced and measured to ensure that it doesn't vanish due to a series of poor decisions or miscommunications. To build trust, we need to do what we say that we're going to do, and leaders who go out of their way to help and support others being successful demonstrate that they're more interested in the team's success than their own. And when people feel that their leader truly cares and supports their successes, they'll go out of their way to ensure the leader is successful. Listening to your team members and then actually acting on their feedback is the quickest way to be able to rebuild trust. And it communicates to people that you value their opinion and are willing to act on their advice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Davis?
You touched on this a little bit earlier when you were talking about green space and cycling in the community and such, but my question is, professionally and personally, how do you plan to be involved in the community?
Oh, I will absolutely be involved in the community at all stretches and forms. It's my job to be out there immediately to be honest and to be unbiased and to be with them and to ensure that I will build the relationships with the community to be visible, to be approachable. And I want to understand the needs and their issues and their concerns and to provide solutions to the issues. And this is an opportunity as getting out there as part of meet and greets initially to build the relationships with the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Hamilton?
Troy is proud of our longstanding financial stability. While recognizing that fiscal policy is set by the council, what assistance would you provide to maintain or improve the city's financial position? And what past experiences demonstrate your financial acumen?
Certainly. As the city continues to strategize, we maintain and expand our programs with our current resource partners and also with our private sector partners. This starts with policy direction from you in the government to exploit opportunities that we have economically. And we embrace both the manufacturing and the knowledge industries, but only a fraction of our workforce lives within the community. I think that City Council should set a vision to try to draw in new residents, because we're a property tax-based community, and drawing in workers that buy houses and live in the community increases the tax revenues as well as the water and sewer fees for both our general and our enterprise funds. These are funds that power our city, and by leveraging Troy's unique community assets and the partnerships and available tools, we're setting the living spaces to promote business growth, and the city's creating that environment for investment. So as the city grows, we want to ensure that we protect Troy's AAA bond rating so it protects commercial property values and keeps millage rate low, as well as working closely with the city team to strike the proper balance between protecting our bond rating and still allocating funds for critical infrastructure needs in accordance with the master plan and 5-year strategy. I think it's also important to protect our taxpayer funds and to use them smartly, as we want to provide the best services for our citizens. And we need to look for efficiencies in our departments to eliminate the waste and improve processes by saving funds. And setting a culture of collaboration and communication throughout the improvement process nurtures the relationships and builds trust within the entire city team. And this includes being transparent and matching budget to strategy and having reserve and to look forward and to make sure all of this works together. Personally, as working from the Air Force, this has always been a nonprofit organization. At least I hope that the Air Force is a nonprofit organization. But my extensive experience in economic development surrounds security cooperation. And as the Chief of Operations for Defense Institution Building, I worked with more than 21 nations and worked with hundreds of millions of dollars in projects. But the economic growth to communities was immeasurable. And let me give you an example. RAF Mildenhall in the UK, we were able to bring a security cooperation program in, and that generated by itself 1,000 jobs just for the base. And on top of that, that was 15,000 jobs for the surrounding region and more than $380 million of expenditure annually. So as city manager, I realize it's my mission to stay within budget and to secure the priorities and the goals for the community vision, but I also want to promote and develop substantial reserves to ensure our financial stability.
Thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
Rex, based on your research and understanding of the city, what do you believe are the most important opportunities and challenges for the city in the near term, and how would you approach those?
Certainly. Taking a look at the base documents, I also had a great opportunity to talk to several citizens of Troy over the last couple of months. I read the strategy, studied the budget, and also had a good read through the master plan. And from that, I see several challenges. And this includes the division between the city and the community regarding green space development. And this is illustrated by the cancellation of the Civic Center project. But also, we have to protect these AAA bond rating to keep the tax rate low and to make sure that the city is always attractive to business. But a new one that's come up has really been inclusion. And that includes culturally and generationally. There's an influx of immigration, and it's changing the dynamic of the city, as well as the city aging. By 2030, the highest demographic is going to be the over 60s. And this is going to require us to add or modify city services for this demographic. I also learned, and I talked about this earlier, that the major challenge is about rebuilding trust within the city staff and the community. And there's serious challenges, and there's still a lot of trauma out there that were caused by previous city leadership. But I'm a passionate leader, and I recognize that rebuilding trust is going to take time, but we can do this with patience, compassion, and perseverance. I also believe that the city needs to focus on ways to increase transparency to restore the city's trust and the ability to govern, as well as be good stewards of the public funds. And I'll make every effort to engage with the community, to be visible and proactive, and take steps to restore faith within the city management.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Hoderick.
What steps would you implement to assure an ethical culture in the city?
Certainly. As we take a look at any sort of ethical culture, one of the easiest ways that I were able to do this within the U.S. military is we went through and we did a lot of this by community outreach and really a communication campaign. We understand that the technology offers new opportunities for cost-effective ways to distribute information as well as reaching out to the citizens. And new variations on public meetings and other outreach tools include vetting different issues such as ethics, and to include this information on results that are more widely used for plans and projects. So we can use webinars and virtual meetings and other technological tools to be able to allow people to attend meetings and to provide feedback even from their own homes. And we can also pair this with focus groups, small group processes, open houses, workshops, forums, outreach, and other things to include newsletters and flyers. I think the way that we communicate is to be able to have our correct message and to keep that transparency working at all times to show that we're ethical, to build an environment that's ethical.
Thank you. Councilman Pennington?
Yes. Rex, please describe a situation you've handled where the community faced a contentious issue with strong, diverging opinions, and what did you learn from this experience?
Certainly. I'm gonna do a little bit more storytelling here. I said a little bit about building this 4,300 person military city, that RAF Mildenhall. And we had just stood the entire thing up. And the hard work that we had done with the community, helping with noise complaints, making sure that everybody was happy with this many Yanks coming down on top of them. And as we put this all together, about 2 weeks after we stood up and celebrated the opening of the wing, U.S. Special Operations Command came down and said they were closing. And you can imagine the outrage that came from the local community, the relationships that we built that now seem to be sullied. It made us look like we were a bunch of liars. And so we needed to get out immediately in front of this and be able to move it forward. And the key was, even though that we had gone back and said, hey, we got to reverse this decision, that the military was moving forward. And so we said, okay, we have to accept the decision, but we have to make sure everybody understands why this happened. And we also need to reassure people that we weren't leaving tomorrow. So we set up, we reassured our 1,000 people that were working on our base to make them understand that they weren't losing the $380 million that was going to be within the area, or the 15,000 regional jobs. And we did this through a very aggressive PA platform, talking points for everybody. We brought the local workers in, we sat them down, explained what's going to happen. It wasn't going to happen today. In fact, it still hasn't happened. But the most important thing was that everybody understood this, all the way from the city councils to the city personnel. We put in newspaper articles. We worked all the way into regional press outlets, all the way up to the UK and the Minister of Defense, to show them, hey, It wasn't our decision on this. It's not going to happen tomorrow. We're going to continue to work with you, and we want to make sure that we are open and trustworthy so that we can maintain our international relations for everything that we're doing.
Thank you. I have the last question, Rex.
Okay.
Our past city manager contracts have included a provision requiring the city manager to live within 20 miles of the city. If offered the position, would this type of provision be acceptable to you?
I'm there tomorrow. Let's make it happen.
All right. Rex, that concludes the questions that City Council had for you this morning. I'll give you an opportunity to ask a few questions or give us a closing statement.
Well, certainly. And my closing statement is I want to say thank you to all of you as the dedicated council members and citizens of Troy who provided me with the opportunity to interview for the city manager position today. It's truly an honor, and Troy is blessed with good money for roads, public works, and public safety. Troy is also a diverse melting pot. People come to realize their American dreams, and the city is very fortunate to have a dedicated city council and a committed city staff that work hard through the year to provide our citizens with quality services. My whole life, I've been a servant leader, a mentor, administrator, and a consummate team player. I have a proven track record of delivering high-impact, multi-pronged strategies and solid leadership throughout my entire career. I've maintained a stellar reputation and a top-secret security clearance for nearly 30 years. This is the highest trust vetted by any federal government, and nobody can maintain this without perfect integrity. I'm a trained military pilot where I'm paid to make split-second decisions, and in my background, we have a term called commandability. It's the ability to take an aspect of every scenario, absorb it, communicate it with others, and make a decision, and then be held accountable for that decision. With good character, commandability, and passion for excellence, I'll build trust, promote positive outlook, and bring solid transformation. The city needs someone with perfect integrity who understands traditions and values while also bringing to the table a fresh international perspective. Most of my professional life has prepared me for this job, and its most important job in government, bar none. I'm ready to hit the ground running, and I know the city manager's job is to work with each and every one of you. But most importantly, I believe in the city, and I want to provide economic opportunity from the very young to the elderly. And I'm committed to advocating for the inclusion of Troy's senior citizens, especially in the economic downturn that hit the region. The city had to dramatically cut back programs, some of which were specifically designed for the well-being of seniors. And since the economy has come back, these programs have not come back to the same level that they once were. With all that Troy team have done for the community, I believe it's important we revisit and work to continue to grow a community atmosphere where seniors are truly welcome. I want to be visible 24/7 in the community and pay attention to everyone. I know you all bring compassion, devotion, and commitment to the City Council, and I would be your partner, and I know we could make it better together. It's my mission to create an environment that's transparent and invites collaboration to build a stronger, more united city. I respectfully thank you for your consideration and look forward to serving all of you soon.
Thank you very much. Well done. That concludes our first interview. We have until approximately 10 a.m. for our second interview, so let's take a short break and
Bye.